And I think that's what motivated him to say it didn't come out with as much of a conclusion or helpful. Like, I like for us to, by the end of our conversation, come up with something either that we're going to do or that everybody can do or that we're going to do that we can extrapolate to everybody. And so here's the thing. Basically, he was writing about the major shift of media, and he talked about that newsletters were the surprising giant shift that has happened over the last several years. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Business Lunch with Ryan Deiss and myself, Roland Frasier. Ryan, how are you doing this wonderful day?
Outstandingly fantabulous. What about you? You're like about to get on an airplane or something, right?
Man, I have had the craziest schedule between like work stuff, events, and moth infestations. I have a giant semi of a freezer in my driveway right now where all of our clothes and carpets and the pillows and things are freezing at minus 15 for 72 hours to kill, hopefully for the final time, all moth life in this
That
house.
finally, we talked about this in a previous episode.
Yeah.
So the freezer finally arrived. Give me an update on it. How is it? Did it like not work the first time? So you're doing it again, or
No,
is
we
this the
haven't.
first effort?
We've my wife is like battled with them, and I know your wife had that, you said, in the pantry.
Mhm.
Has battled with them for months, and was gonna, like, to dry clean all of our closets of clothes was gonna be double our net worth. To gas the house was going to put chemicals everywhere and possibly kill our pets and cause mutations. So we came on the least. It turns out that if you freeze things for 48 to 72 hours, that gets rid of everything. So then started the nationwide hunt for a giant freezer that I could put in my driveway, which manifested itself in having that. So we'll see. Hopefully we'll be moth free. And then yesterday I went up to get my wife's stem cell injections in her knees because they've been giving her trouble forever. And this morning she's like, "Let's go play pickleball." And I'm like, "Hey, whoa, 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 whoa!" But I was like, "That's pretty great."
Yeah,
So
that's great.
I'm our son got him a couple of years ago, and one set of it fixed him. So I'm excited about that. But man, and then now I got to get on a plane. It's just been insane. So for me, the Thursday afternoon starts a life of freedom for at least a week or so. And I am very much looking forward to no personal house based things, no weddings I have to go to at the last minute in Mexico, no 4-day event back to back, and no moths.
And it's Thursday. I got to figure out something I can do to screw with you on Thursday, just to make sure there's like
Definitely.
a little piece as possible.
I mean, and if you don't, so far the
Friends.
universe has been just doing just fine.
Yeah, I'll see if it shows up, and if not, I'll be there for you, buddy.
But
We don't have to do anything.
that said, and speaking of screwing with things, I read an article in the Perpetual newsletter, which I think is that by one of the Hustle guys.
Yeah, it's the guy. He was the director of ops with Sam Parver at the Hustle. Great, like super smart guy. Really like him a lot. And yeah, great. Writes a great newsletter. I think you sent it to me. I was like, I thought he stopped writing it. And I looked at it, was like, it's my first issue in 15 months. I'm like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it was a really good one, and I think that's what motivated him to say it didn't come out with as much of a conclusion or helpful. Like, I like for us to, by the end of our conversation, come up with something either that we're going to do or that everybody can do or that we're going to do that we can extrapolate to everybody. And so here's the thing. Basically, he was writing about the major shift of media, and he talked about that newsletters were the surprising giant shift that has happened over the last several years, and how major media is now advertising in newsletters. And we have a few newsletters ourselves. You were miles ahead of the curve. I don't know, maybe like 5 years ago, before it really became a thing, to give you
dude,
credit.
I wrote a report called The Great Easing Experiment back in 2007. So to
Yeah,
say
but
I
I
was
mean,
ahead of the curve on email newsletters is
but on the, what was the one that we started? Maybe it was like five. I mean, it was
yeah,
when you really saw the trend, because I mean, there've been newsletters like
for
forever,
sure.
but but I felt like you really spotted the trend and talked about it and like dove in as you do for your deep dive to kind of own the understanding of it. And I'm just trying to give you props here. It was super cool to see how it evolved. We didn't do as good a job as we would have liked in either taking advantage of it to create one, although we do have a few now that I think are pretty good with decent subscribership. And we definitely have not to this day done a good job of advertising in them, which I think is still something that we are missing out on, that if you guys aren't doing, you should too. Even being able to monetize our own, we're just now saying, hey, we got a podcast with millions and millions of downloads. We've got a newsletter or two with hundreds of thousands of subscribers. How about if we tell those people, hey, you want to buy something? So
think of all the extra taxes we'd have to pay, though.
But yeah, it's true. But anyway, so his thesis was that the newsletter era is over. But then he's talking about a continuation, or just to me a nuance on the newsletter era. And so I loved all the history, but I felt like the conclusion left me kind of flat, and I wanted to see what your proposal, your take on it was, because what I got from it was he's saying the newsletter opportunity is gone generally, and all these newsletters are going out of business now. And the problem is that if you think you're doing great with a 50% open rate, which, by the way, that's kind of a vanity statistic now because of all the intermediary things, then you're in for a surprise, because already half your audience doesn't want to hear what you have to say, and the AI bots are coming and will basically be deselecting you from delivery to the people that have subscribed to you. Although in terms of spam traps and algorithms that measure people's behavior and move things from the regular inbox to promotions, I feel like that's already happening. So I didn't see it like as a big breakthrough. I really liked the article and I really liked what he had to say, and I loved the historical context, but I didn't feel the conclusion was particularly helpful or maybe even gonna happen. So or maybe insightful. What was your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, so similar. I'm always suspect anytime somebody proclaims the death of something who wasn't necessarily there during the first iteration of it, because they don't realize, they think that what they just saw was the first time this thing had ever happened.
Yeah.
And really what it is it's another evolution of it. And so what you perceive as the death of something is simply another evolution of it. And you haven't quite looked back as far as you might have thought you looked into to get your historical context. So right. I do believe that there is a massive, massive, massive shift in terms of the way that human beings are gathering information. So we can call that media, courses. There is no doubt. And one of the points that he made in there that I thought was dead on, and what I do believe when he's talking about something dying, that I do believe as a format is going to we're going to see, die is a strong word, that we're going to see become less and less important because humans are going to value it less and less, is the curated newsletter. Uh-huh. So you had a lot of these newsletters, whether it was the Hustle, Morning Brew, these kinds of things, where what you had was human beings going out, scouring the internet, doing a bunch of reading, producing a bunch of very well-written, humorous summaries of what was being read, packaging that up into a newsletter, clicking send and sending it out to everybody. Basically, I'm going to read the internet, everything on the internet about all this stuff so that you don't have to, and tell you what matters. As AI comes on board and as AI becomes a part of everybody's life, it becomes that curation mechanism. Yeah. And everybody isn't using it today, but everybody will. If you want a simple heuristic for identifying trends, here's one that's never failed me so far to date. As young people get older, do they act more like old people? Or as old people get older, do they act more like young people? It really is that simple. And so let's take email, for example. Part of the reason that I got really excited again about email back in 2016, 2017 was the social was coming online. Everybody was saying, oh, email's dead because social is going to replace it. Well, what I was seeing was that young people, as they got older, started acting more like old people with respect to email, because young people When they're in school, when they're all on social, they don't need email addresses. Email is stupid. And yet something happened to young people when they got older. They got jobs. And when they got jobs, they got email addresses. And they started using those emails every day. And so young people started acting like old people when they got older. Mm-hmm. What I'm seeing now with AI, though, and that's why I think email will always be here. And I'm very suspect of anybody who says that email is going to fundamentally change, that the way that we consume information via email. I think email newsletters are going to have a place for the foreseeable future, even if the open rate's only 40, 50%. I just think that they can't be these curated ones because it's too easily replicable by AI. And what I am seeing is, again, in this case, old people, and I'm throwing up the air quotes, starting to act more like young people in their adoption of AI. So it obviously started with kind of the usins, the tech crowd. My kids fell into it fairly easily because they're trying to figure out, how do I get AI to write my term papers and stuff like that. So they were directly incentivized to do it. Right. And now my mom, I'm talking to my mom, and she's like, oh my gosh, I finally figured out I can, use ChatGPT to help me come up with these exercises. And, I was putting together this part. And so there's no going back from that. Like AI is absolutely going to get embedded in everything. Humans, every person is going to use it. And it is the best curation, distillation tool that mankind has ever seen. Yep. So if all you're doing in any aspect of your job, but certainly if you're media, if what you are is an aggregator and a distiller, you're dead. You're dead. Like AI does that so much better than you in seconds. So there's just no competition.